right. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I am just really pleased to be here today. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Perfect.
we can hear you.
Great, great. So I'm pleased to be here today, and just thank you to Orion for inviting me to come and talk to you about finding a digital voice. And so what I do, I'm going to introduce myself. Actually, it's in my presentation, so I can actually just go ahead and start. I'm going to go on and share my screen. And hold on, let me get it up here. And then I'm going to go right into it. So can you let me know if you can see my screen? Because I can just see my chat. So, all right, can someone let me know whether or not you can see? Let me go here into the chat just to make sure that you all can see me. Okay, perfect. All right, you can see my screen. Okay, I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit, just make sure you hear me. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how to find your digital voice and grow a highly engaged audience. And so who am I? I'm Sharique Richardson. I'm the founder of Digital Innovation Media Group, where we
Wait,
focus on,
I
I'm sorry,
only see a white screen. Hold on.
uh-oh.
Let me
Let's
see.
see.
Yeah, someone else just said the screen is white. So let's see.
All right, so you don't see the presentation?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so let me go back to that. Let me stop share. All right, 1 second. Okay, do you see it now?
Yes, we see it now.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so I want to go ahead on back to my introduction. So as I said before, we specialize in web design, SEO, and social media management. And I also speak and train on different digital marketing topics. And my MBA, I'm a Rattler, so I'm a new person here, so I know everyone has a lot of pride with Dillard and other great colleges here, but I believe we're all part of the HBCU family. So I'm a proud Rattler, and that's where I got my education. And I have over 20 years of experience working in marketing and sales. And so a little bit more about me and my family. I'm a boy mom. My husband is a pastor. So we're actually new to the New Orleans area. We moved here last summer in July. So my husband's a pastor at Cornerstone United Methodist Church over in the East. And so that's what brought us here from North Carolina. And we've loved it ever since. So definitely glad to be here. So, what are we going to talk about today is finding your digital voice. I'm going to give you some great examples. First, we're going to define it. What is it? Why you should have one, and how you can identify your own digital voice, and how you can grow an engaged audience with that digital voice. Okay, so I'm going to actually hold questions to the end. I see some chats coming in. So let me see, as long as there's nothing that's affecting the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and continue. So what is a digital voice? If you're wondering that, it is basically how you are perceived by people who look at your content online. This is the impression that they have looking at your content, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. It's what they think about when they see you. And it can be anything. It can be funny, it can be fresh, aggressive, but there's digital voices basically defined in words. And a lot of these words are the words that you see right here. So for example, if you wanted to have a digital voice that's funny, and if people don't see you as funny, then there's obviously some type of disconnect there. And so one thing that you will want to work on is, how do you make sure that you are putting out the right voice that you want people to get from you? Why do you need it? The reality of it is that you can't afford to not have it. You must have one if you want to build an engaged audience, if you want to build connection with your audience. Why? Because it shows your tone, your personality, your values. It gives people a peek into who you are other than just being a business owner. It really gives them a little look behind the screen to see exactly who you really are. And when we get into of course, the meat of it, it builds know, like, and trust. And we know that know, like, and trust definitely helps you convert quicker. It helps people follow you. It helps people refer you and want to collaborate and work with you. Also, it helps you stand out. I'm going to move this up the way here. It helps you stand out so that you get more attention from your audience versus those who are just using vanilla, marketing messages, just putting out anything that they just want to be visible, and that's it. but they're not strategizing. They're not using a marketing strategy. They're just putting things out there. So it does set you aside. And the proof source of this is that 80% of people say that authenticity of the content is what makes them follow a brand. And the more authentic and real that you are with your brand, and the more that your brand matches your audience, the better chance of you getting connection and obviously conversions. It shows the proof is in the pudding, 23% conversions by people who definitely know how to connect better with their audiences. So what does this look like? So we're going to look at two brands, very popular brands that are out there right now. We all know Whole Foods. We know they're like what we call the bougie type of grocery store. So, but their brand voice is trusted quality. They're delightfully inspired, and their demographic market is the 25 to 44-year-olds, high income, advanced degrees. So let's see if their digital voice actually matches it, if their social media matches their digital voice. And as you can see, it does. On the left is their Facebook profile, and it shows you 10 ways to eat more leafy greens, right? So it's talking to a certain population. And we know that unfortunately in this country, healthier foods cost more money. You can get junk food for cheap, but if you want to eat healthy, live healthy, you have to pay more. And they know that people they're speaking to is that specific market that's going to pay more and can't afford it. And you look at their Twitter references, they're referencing pop culture that speaks to their ideal client, right? You're not going to see your regular grocery store put out information like this because they're speaking to people who maybe are not the Whole Foods crowd, but Whole Foods knows their people and they speak to them directly in their social media. And you'll notice that they do it differently across Facebook and Twitter, but they're still being consistent. Their messaging is still consistent. Mercedes-Benz. Now they come off with a very formal brand voice. And typically, you know, you don't want to do formal as being just not really knowing how to lighten up, but they're Mercedes-Benz. They can do what they want because their brand is so solidified that they can pretty much do what they want. And their brand has a long history of trust and credibility and quality. So yes, their demographic is a higher income bracket, older people, and they have, like I say, depending on the vehicle, because you have the $50,000 car, you also have the over $100,000 car, but it does speak to them. And when you look at their social media on the left, their Facebook, they're talking about, you know, the inside, you know, in car entertainment. They're not painting the picture of like the kids in the back seat, you know, enjoying the video while their parents are having some peace of mind in the front. That's more of like a Honda commercial. They're just showing you more of features, right? Not so much the benefit because they can, right? Because their brand is just that solidified in the market. And they appeal to men and women. So you see on the bottom part here, they have that hashtag She's Mercedes. They have an organization within their company that appeals to female empowerment. So they definitely are speaking directly to women that car buying is not just for men, that you can come and have a great experience too. And overall consistency. That's really the main thing. They are consistent across their brands, even though they may communicate just a little bit differently. So how do you get your own brand voice? I always believe in looking inside first before you look outside, because if you have to kind of look at yourself first and do a self inventory, and then you go and ask someone else, and of course you must, as I said before, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, you must know your audience. And some questions that you want to ask yourself are, what are your values? What is important to you? Are you more of I'm going to stay out of social issues and just focus on business type person? Or are you someone who's going to be outspoken? Are you going to have a voice that's very in your face? Or are you going to be more on the side of being very formal? You have to know these things. How do you want people to view you? So those words that we looked at earlier, you know, if you want people to see you as funny, but you don't talk about, you don't have humor or anything in your brand, well, they're not going to see that in you. And also you want to think about how formal or informal that you want your brand to be. Because if you're selling t-shirts, you may be a little bit more informal. But if you're a divorce attorney, then you may want to be a little bit more formal, even though you can have a little humor every now and then. But because you're talking about a serious subject, family law, and all the different things that can come with that, you definitely want to have more of a formal tone to your content. So also say ask a trusted friend. And I'm not talking about the yes friend, the best friend. I'm talking about someone who's going to be totally and completely honest with you. Someone who's going to tell you the real, not someone who just doesn't want to hurt your feelings, but someone can honestly tell you, well, I don't see where you're being funny. I don't see where you're being more in your face. Ask them, give you 5 words. Give me 5 words that describe me, my content online. Does it sound like me? Does it sound like this? I'm trying to reach the kind of people I'm trying to reach? Is it consistent? If you're ratchet on Twitter, but professional on Facebook, people are going to look at that and wonder, who is this person? Or if you're one way online, when they finally meet you and it's two totally different things, then that's going to not look good for you, because they're going to wonder, well, then who really are you? And should I even trust you? And so that makes sure that once you look within yourself, you ask somebody who's going to be honest with you, a friend, a mentor, a coach, someone who definitely has your best interest at heart, even if it's uncomfortable for you to hear it. You have to obviously know your audience. And we've all heard about these things, the demographics, your age, your income, your race, where do you live? But I like to go further than that and talk about goals. Where are they right now in their lives? And where do they want to be? Maybe if you're a health coach and you're about health and wellness, maybe they're living a very unhealthy lifestyle and it's affecting their self-esteem, their confidence. And now their goal is to live a more confident, free life. That is what you'll sell, not so much the weight loss. Emotional, how is it making them feel? How do they feel about where they are and how do they want to feel, right? And their buying behavior, where are they already giving their money? And how can you tap into that pipeline? And I'm going to talk about that too. But also, you want to just look a little deeper than just demographics, but look at the whole picture, the whole 360 of the person that you're trying to reach. But also investigate, when you ask yourself whether you're a startup or whether you are rebranding or whether you've been in business for a long time, we just need to go back and do an assessment. These are great questions to ask yourself. How can you help your client? How are you different? How do they receive information? Are they a reader, a viewer, or a listener? So that determines whether you want to do podcasts, videos, blogs, written content. That will tell you that. And I always like to do at least 2 out of 3. So even if you do a podcast, you can film yourself, put it on YouTube, but also send it over to Anchor for your podcast so they can listen to you, but also see you, because video does build trust. What words make them tick? And we're going to talk about that in future slides. What are the words that trigger them to make them want to pay attention, stand up and pay attention to you versus, okay, she's just like everybody else? And also your story. How relatable are you? How well do you really know them? How well have you experienced something that they experienced where you overweight and now you got certified and you got trained and now you know how to help other women who are where you are? That is your story. And that's what makes them want to trust you more and obviously buy from you. Here's a great tool that I learned about from a coach who taught me this. And this is a great tool if you really want to get buying behavior. So this is all part of the market research stage of business, because it's not like you want to have this information here and make your whole business revolve around it, but it's really helpful to give you a general sense of what people in certain subsets are doing as far as who they're buying from, what they like to do, so that you can cater your content around that. And that link there is for you to use. It's a long, messy link, but I made a shortened link for you there. And I can even pop that back into the chat later on. So what's going to happen is once you get to this page, you're going to see different consumer groups put into subsets by either their life stage or their social stage, right? So when you click on one of these, it's going to take you into this person. Let me move this over here so I can see that. So for example, upper middle class, upper mid-scale, middle age, mostly without kids. They own a Mercedes. They eat at Boston Market. They shop at Nordstrom Rack. So you already know the brands that they're drawn to. So one thing we learned in this group that the coach that I had was go to those particular businesses and pull out the emotional, impactful words that they're using. So for Mercedes, they're using words like tailor-made, customized, top of the line, quality, and see how you can infuse those words into your content so that you can draw those same people to your business because you're already using the business, the words that you're using the words of a business that they're already engaging and spending money with. And so you're tying and aligning yourself with these brands so they will see you as they see Mercedes, if that makes sense. And you can always put questions in the chat if you have any questions about that. You can also look at zip codes. So excuse me for a second. I need my tea. You can look at a zip code. So here's Metairie, for example. So Metairie has these subsets, and it's just one zip code in Metairie. If you're looking at targeting, buyers in the Metairie area, you can look and see these are the subsets there. And you can look into each one and actually play with this tool here. And this is all free. You can pay more for more of an in-depth deep dive, but this is really enough to get you started. This tied with the investigative questioning that you're doing with yourself, your mentor, and also looking at, I always recommend having a small sample size of like 10 to 15 people who are in your ideal client market, asking them specific questions about, just like we said, how do you like to receive information? What makes you buy? What makes you tick? Those type of things. So you put all this together and you have a great way of building and developing your own brand voice. You're just simply using the data that you've had, right? You're speaking their language, you're mixing up your content. So they're telling you, well, I like YouTube. I love YouTube. I love to go in there and learn new things. So you want to be a little heavier on the video side. Not saying you can't do text, anything else, or anything, you can't blog or do a podcast, but you may want to show them more of your video side. So that way they can connect with you a little bit more and you're giving them more of what they want, right? This is how you build people. This is how you grow and really develop a strong audience. Also watching your language, not cursing, but your tone. How do you say things, right? The buzzwords we talked about that you'll pull out from different brands that they're already spending money with. And your personality. That's what's going to set you aside from the other people, because let's face it, most of us are doing things that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other people are doing too. God knows how many people who are doing what I do. But people come to me because they know me, they know my personality, and they know how I am. So that's really what's going to set you aside from other people's when they get used to seeing different things and reading your personality and hearing your voice in your content. As I said before, all platforms are not the same. Okay, so this is a fun way of looking at this, but maybe many of you have already seen this Dolly Parton post that she put out that went viral. And she shows herself in different stages of her life where, her LinkedIn phase, her Facebook, whatever, but it shows you the difference between how you present yourself on each platform. And on the other side here, I'm not sure if I can see this, I'm gonna move this over. You're saying the same exact thing, but you're saying it according to the platform. So instead of I like donuts and saying that on each platform, you may say I'm eating a hashtag donut. In Facebook, I love donuts. Instagram, here's the donut. So again, you just making those pivots and being flexible enough to make sure that you are speaking to your clients. And another thing is just making sure that you're on the platforms that they are on. Okay, so I'm not saying be on all these platforms, be where they are and speak the language of your client, but also the actual platform. So if you're on LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn client, they don't care what you had for breakfast. They don't even care that you like donuts. They want to know, can you help me? Are you trustworthy? Are there other people who can speak for you on your behalf? And, can we do business together? So that's just for example, just how people like to be spoken to on each different platform. Always, I love engaging questions. And I'm not talking about those questions. I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago when people were posting I call them silly questions, like, do you like peanut butter or jelly or stuff like that? Nothing had to do with their business, right? But it was just more of just trying to get a post where people just comment on. And while that's great, you can do that and still let it help your business without it being so generic like that. And I'm going to show you a good example of some engaging questions. But ask questions. It's always great to get people talking, whether it's in an Instagram story, you're doing a poll or yes or no. These can be very pointed questions that can give you good insight on what your client wants and what they need. Respond to comments. When people like and comment on your posts, I like to tag people on LinkedIn and Facebook and say, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for stopping by. What about my posts made you, or what did you think about what I said? So if you're talking about weight loss and how you hate diets because you're a coach that focuses more on healthy lifestyle versus a fad diet. So what is your opinion about diets? So you want to get them into a conversation. This is all about relationship building, not so much just trying to get a quick sale. And you may still get that, but the people who want to stick with you and follow you are the ones who want that relationship. They want to know that you're not just trying to sell to them. They want to know that you actually do care about how they engage with your product and how they engage with your service, whatever, or your information. And make it count. Like I mentioned about your content earlier, make it count. So don't just put something out there to be visible. Really think about and be very impactful about what you're putting out there. And here are some great questions that you can ask. You know, how do you feel about this and that? How do you feel about diets? How do you feel about fads? Okay, what are your plans today? You know, that can lead, I mean, if you're someone who is, like I said, if you're in health and wellness, what are they doing today? Are they going to get beignets? Or are they going to take a walk or ride their bike in the park? So you can really engage them with that. Does this make sense to you? After you say something, you talk about your opinion on something. Does this make sense to you? Do you agree? So these are all great things that you can either ask within a post in itself, or you can tack it on to the bottom of a comment or post that you made. So if you're talking about, right now we're talking about COVID, how does that make you feel? How do you feel about COVID? Do you think it's going to go away? Do you think we should open our businesses or not? Those kind of things that gets people talking. And that way you can really bring them into a conversation and get them to where you're now talking with them and they want to know, okay, well, what do you do? Tell me about yourself. Anything that creates that introduction to getting them to want to know more about you is always good. So this is what we do. This is how we determine voices, digital voices for our clients. So first we have an initial marketing strategy session, which is always good. So this is like the investigative phase that you saw earlier, questions that you ask yourself, we ask clients and we go through and we brainstorm with them. We also have an onboarding questionnaire so we can get more information and that I typically pass down to my team so they can create the logos, the content, or whatever the client needs. We always have a pre-approval of content before it's posted so they can say, well, that sounds like me, but that doesn't sound like me, or I don't use that word. So we can fix that before it goes out, right? And we have ongoing monthly strategy sessions. So that way we make sure that we are staying with you throughout this whole process and that if something changes in your business, we're right there with our finger on the pulse. So here's an idea of some client voices that we have, that we work with. So I have a real estate agent client and she's very matter of fact, she's very blunt. She doesn't use slang, but she will come into a house and she will tell you in 5 years that crack on the wall is going to be $10,000, or in a year from now it's going to be $10,000. She will not let you leave a house without you knowing top to bottom what's wrong with it, whether you like it or not. I mean, she's very in your face. And so her content is written from that perspective, right? Her whole presence is all about her being this expert, which she is. She's very talented and skilled. She's been my realtor, so I can speak personally for her. That is who she is, and that's what people are used to when they meet her. So when they do meet her, they're not surprised because her content matches her personality. Health and wellness. She's very educational. She's always teaching. She's always sharing. And to her, when you become a customer and when you become a team member, you're family. So her website was written and designed as a family website. It's a family environment and it's very informal. I have a senior move manager. She's very nurturing because she's helping senior citizens downsize to assisted living or to an apartment. But she's also assertive because if you know this population, it's not easy. You can't just say, okay, it's time to leave, Grandpa. You have to go with someone who's very assertive and can get the process moving. So she's great with that. And she's relatable since most of her clients are widowed. She's had loss in her family. So, and she's very open about her loss. So she has a relatable factor. So they know, okay, you know the pain that I've gone through. You know this isn't easy for me because she's lived it. And lastly, I have a mortgage lending association. They are very formal. They're talking about mortgages. They're talking about homes and rates, but they're also very inviting. They want people to join them. They love sharing information with each other. So they're very educational and they love to share. So that's why we make sure that when we did the website, that it was very, join us. Here's what you're going to learn. Here's what you're going to get from us. Okay. So guys, I'm not a long talker. So that's what I have today. before I leave, I want to make sure you know how to contact me. And I'm definitely going to say, please get that social media planner if you're looking to either maximize your social media presence, if you already have a presence and you're not getting results. This is a great way to kind of really do a deep dive. It's going to ask you some questions and it's going to have you write some information down so that you can really look at your social media content and say, okay, I'm on the right track or I need to make some adjustments. And so that's what I have. And I'm going to look at the chat and see if there's any questions. Okay. The best place to find African American stock photos, I love Create Her, and she's a great reference. They are a great company. I've used them for years, and they feature Black families, lifestyle, business stock photos. You can pretty much find whatever you want. It is a paid subscription service, and if you sign up on their list, they'll send you free images every month. So they're really great. What if your digital isn't working to convert sales? If it's not working to convert sales, there's a disconnect, like I was saying earlier. If you're not converting people, that means, okay, are you targeting them correctly? Are you speaking their language? Are you, I think if you go back and really ask yourself a lot of the questions that I went over, you can really look at those spots where you have some disconnect, and working with a coach or a mentor can really help you too, because if you're not converting to sales, that means that they're either not getting anything from your information or there is something going along with something, disconnect, whether in your funnel. So that's like a loaded question, but it's a great question, but it would take a deep dive of someone looking really into what you're doing. And I can know like, so what do you do? Can you put in the chat what you do, Michaela? And I can see if I can do same question. Same thing for Dr. Trevor. Okay. Let me see. Any questions? Okay. Oh, the download the guide is in resources. And so you can definitely go there and do that. My contact information is here. You can just shoot me an email. And if you have any questions, let me see here. Thank you to everyone who loved this. I appreciate that. And this PowerPoint and email, that's a question for Orion. I know this presentation will be available, I believe, for a year. So that is something that I know that she can answer that. And let me see if there's any other questions.
Yes, Sharik gave me this, is in your resources. So if you go to your app, we will talk about our nice friendly app. If you go to your app and you will click on resources. And once you click on resources, it'll have some different things. Let's see what hers is titled. You go to resources.
Actually, I'm going to.
And it's social media marketing. That is this presentation. Well, it's a similar presentation. It's the big marketing planner. I think what they're asking, Sharik, is for your actual presentation that you just did on the screen. If you want to share that, that's up to you. But if not, she did put something in resources. You guys can get that resource. And I am going to mute my screen so you can finish talking.
Okay. I got another question here. When exactly should a new business owner employ my services, at what ideal level? Once the prototype or product is ready to put on the market, or in between? So it depends on what it is. For me, I typically work with businesses that have been already operating for a couple of years. Now I have worked with a few startups. So because of my pricing, that's the only reason why I say that. I do have a starter website package for people who are starting out. The rest of them are for more established businesses because of the budget. My social media starts at $497 a month, and it goes up from there. So that's for like 12 posts a month, and then it goes up to 30. But of course, obviously, the more posts, the higher the investment. At the ideal level, so I do also consulting, and what I do is a lot of what I talked about today. If you are in that phase of where you're looking to either come out of corporate to a business, I do consulting with that as well, because that's exactly what I did. I was working at Duke and I was managing a clinic, radiation oncology clinic, and I did all their social media and their web. And before I did that on my own, before I came out to do my own business. So I definitely know what that's like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So yes. And if you have a product, a prototype, it depends on how close it is, I would say, to the market, because if you want to build hype and you want to really develop that, it depends on how far in production you are and when is your actual launch date. And that's something that I would work with a client on. Let me see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. What are my thoughts on paying for ads? I like ads, but I like to do organic traffic as much as possible. And I believe that when you really connect with a client and you really do your deep dive research beforehand, that my clients they convert, regardless of what I'm not, without having to do ads. Now they may do ads for a specific event. They may boost the ad for a talk that they're giving, but as far as their everyday content or something like that, or just trying to build a presence, their organic um, posts do just well. They get interviews, they get asked to speak at events just as much as they would without having to pay all that money for an ad. Let me see. I like to get organic versus ads, honestly, because I just think better. If you're going to use an ad, you want to make sure that first of all, you know what you're doing. So I recommend, if you don't know what you're doing, to hire someone who does, because otherwise you're going to be just wasting money and throwing it down the drain. Okay. Any more questions? And I'm actually going to stop share. Okay, I've got another question. What's my philosophy on
the number of, what's your philosophy on the number of posts per week?
Okay. So it depends on platform. A lot of the platforms are different. Like for LinkedIn, I would say I like to do once a day, but honestly, you can get away with 2 or 3 posts a week. Twitter, obviously, because the cycle moves so fast, I would say several times a day, especially if you're promoting like your podcast episode or blog or something like that. You want to post because you're going to capture someone different every single time. Instagram, I would say about 3 or 4 times a week. Facebook, of course, you can do as many times a day, but I would say for your business page, honestly, the business page algorithm is more for, you can kind of beat the algorithm a little bit more, but it's really more for paid traffic. So if you're comfortable, I don't advise anyone using their personal profiles because of the fact that it is against Facebook's terms. But if you are somewhere in I would say, generic area where you're just asking questions, but you're not like saying buy this and buy that, I feel that you can probably do that about once a day. But if you're really trying to grow and get a lot of visibility, I would say several times a day for at least a short period of time, just so people can get to see who you are, like in a group that allows you to post. Or if you form your own Facebook group, then of course you can post several times a day just to build engagement and get people to really get to know who you are and what you can do and how they can benefit from your services. So that's really what you want to do, what you want the group for anyway. So it does vary, I would say. The whole spray everybody, you can really do probably more harm than good on certain platforms if you're just going out there just posting constantly. That's why we do a strategy. When first we find out where is your client, and then we find out what's best for that platform. So if they're on LinkedIn doing 3 times a day, it's not going to do that well for you. But if you do 3 great impactful posts that week, then you can really go a lot further than that with that client. Did I answer your question? Great. How do you find out what social platforms are best for your client? That all comes through first of all, like let's say, for instance, if you're a B2B, then that's LinkedIn. It depends on your type of business. So if you are, let's say, if you're health and wellness or something like that, or if you are a coach, you can be on LinkedIn, but there's also a lot of people on Facebook. So that's why we do that deep dive in the beginning, because sometimes people are on a platform and they're wondering why they're not getting results. Well, because your people are not here. You have not done your market research. You have not had those conversations. You haven't talked to people who are actually in that field, who tell you, I'm not a Facebook person. I'm on LinkedIn. They'll tell you that. So I always take people back to, what does your market research say? And those questions that I showed earlier are the ones that you want to ask. How do you receive information? Where are you active? where would someone find you? And they'll tell you. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I love Instagram. So that gives you the information that you need to go and say, okay, I need to set up an account over there. So that helps. Any other questions? You're welcome.
So I have a question. I'll ask a few questions.
Sure.
How have you, even though, digital is your business, so that's your area of expertise, and I'm sure that a lot of your tips and your advice you were already using prior to the COVID-19. But with the COVID-19, with the pandemic going on, what are some ways that you have had to transition? What are some different things that you've had to do, even though that this is, this digital thing is right up your alley? But I'm sure that probably some of your customers, this wasn't a digital platform, they didn't use a digital platform as much. So with the whole pandemic going on, what has been your transition or what has changed?
Honestly, I've always been virtual. So, I mean, my business has always been like home-based and virtual. Now for my clients, my business actually grew as a result of COVID because they were not online. I've had more people coming to me saying, I'm more of a face-to-face networking type person. And now I don't know what to do. Some of them are still trying to figure out Zoom. So they're coming to me. I'm setting up Facebook pages. I'm helping them connect their Facebook to their Instagram and helping them do all that because honestly, it's something that they've never had to do, but now realize I should have been doing this all along. So my business, as far as the way I do business, has not changed, but I can say that I've gotten clients who are like, oh my gosh, I need to do something more because I'm stuck in the house and I need to communicate to my audience and I don't know how.
Right. Okay. Well, I think everyone has enjoyed your presentation. I'm seeing a lot of comments. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous. You had a lot of questions. So your presentation was definitely informative.